first glance, the Apothecary Diaries might seem like a grounded historical mystery, but once you start peeling back the layers, things get wild. From secret bloodlines and forbidden romances to theories that suggest entire factions are playing 4D chess behind the scenes, this is the Apothecary Diaries Theory Iceberg. I'll break down this theory iceberg starting from small background details you might have missed all the way to shocking theories that flip the entire story upside down. But before we get started, quick shameless plug. These videos take forever to research, script and edit. So if you're enjoying this kind of content, leaving a like, comment or subscribe genuinely helps a lot. It keeps the channel going and lets me make these videos. Now that that's out of the way, let's get on with the video. These theories do run wild, and to help you keep track of everything, I'll be building a character relationship tree as we go. That way you'll see who's connected, what roles they play, and how each theory ties back to the characters involved, because this can get pretty complicated pretty fast, as you'll see. And I hope by creating this tree, hopefully this iceberg will be much easier to follow. The first theory is about none other than the Empress Regnant. So let's set the stage. By now you've probably noticed I begin most of my videos with her. That's no coincidence. The Empress Regnant holds immense influence over the story. Nearly every major event in the show can be traced back to her, either through her direct actions or the ripple effect of her actions. She was a calculating and manipulative woman, feared by many at court for her ruthlessness, but one thing is clear: she loved her son and she would do anything to protect him. Now here's where the theory begins. The Empress Regnant rose to power because, as far as the official record goes, a deadly plague wiped out all of the Emperor's other sons. Her child was the only one left, and thus the only one who could become the next emperor. This theory suggests it wasn't the plague. What if Empress Regnant orchestrated the entire thing? Because think about how likely is it that every heir died from the same plague except her? It's a little too convenient. This theory suggests she may have had a direct hand in the deaths of the other princes, clearing the path for her own son to inherit the throne. According to the theory, the Empress Regnant orchestrated the deaths of the other heirs to secure power, not for her son's sake alone, but for her own. In the world of the Apothecary Diaries, women are not allowed to rule directly, so by making her son emperor, she created a puppet, a throne she could sit behind while maintaining the illusion of tradition. And that's exactly what happened. Her son was weak, unfit to rule, and ultimately served as a figure. The real power lay with the Empress Regnant. She ran the empire from the shadows, steering the court, shaping decisions, and consolidating her control, all without ever being officially in charge. But is this theory actually believable? To be honest, it's hard to say. If someone goes to such lengths, there has to be a clear motivation, and that's where the theory hits. We still don't know why she would want to rule the empire herself. What did she see in the nation that made her feel it needed her leadership? What was broken and what did she want to fix? Because for humans to move and to act, there has to be an incentive. There has to be a goal they want to accomplish. So to dig deeper, we'd need to look at her time as Empress Regnant. What policies did she push? What reforms did she make? Now all of these are powerful, calculated, strategic moves, but do they really justify killing off every heir just to become the shadow ruler of the nation? Personally, I don't think so. These don't feel like the grand reforms of someone who wanted to reshape the empire from the ground up, expanding the inner court with disguised slaves or manipulating clans into sending consorts. Those seem like means to an end, not the end itself. But Empress Regnant also did something else. She banned all males from entering the inner court unless they were castrated. And this is where we move into the second theory. You remember the first theory, the Empress Regnant allegedly killed off the Emperor's other sons, leaving her own son as the sole heir. While this theory expands on that idea, the theory says that Empress Regnant's son was raped by one of the other heirs to the throne. According to this theory, The Empress Regnant wasn't just consolidating power, she was building a fortress of protection around her child. That's why she created the Eunuch system, to ensure that only castrated men, physically incapable of repeating that kind of abuse, could ever step foot in the inner court. The theory also suggests that his rumored pedophilic behavior was a result of this hidden abuse within the imperial family. One theory proposes that the trauma of the former emperor didn't stem from the commonly speculated sources, neither from the abuse by his father's son nor from his mother. Instead, this theory suggests that his trauma originated from abuse by older women during his youth, which explains his deep fear and aversion toward them as an adult. What supports this theory is the role of Empress Regnant, his mother. While she is known to be ruthless and calculating, there are hints that her actions were rooted in deep care for her son. For example, she went out of her way to create a private room where he could freely pursue his passion for painting, something the rest of the empire saw as unfit for the emperor. Yet, she preserved that space for him. Because of her cold exterior, many quickly blamed her for the former emperor's trauma. But this theory reinterprets her character. Rather than being the source of his suffering, she may have been his only protector. Her ruthlessness may have been a deliberate facade crafted to protect her son. This analysis was originally presented by Mao, who suggested that the trauma likely came from other older women within the inner core. It was hinted at. It's important to note that the former emperor was said to be extraordinarily beautiful in his youth, possibly the most beautiful man of that era. His appearance could have attracted unwanted attention from powerful older women. Women may have exploited their positions to abuse him. And this moves us to the next theory, which suggests that the former emperor was abused by his father's other consorts. It may be the case that those consorts have had a grudge against the former emperor's mother, and as some kind of revenge, they abused her son. If that is the case, then this is an incentive for the Empress Regnant to go around and kill of the emperor's heirs other than her son, which was our first theory. The next theory revolves around Anshi and the disturbing implications behind the birth of the Imperial Brother. It's well established that the former emperor developed tendencies. Multiple noble clans, aware of this, reportedly sent their children into the inner court, hoping that if their child caught the emperor's attention, they might secure power or influence. One of these children was Anshi. According to this theory, Anshi was assaulted by the former emperor, and from that assault, the current emperor was born. And as Anshi grew older and was no longer of interest to the emperor as he feared older women, she struggled a lot with the trauma she carried. Desperate not to become disposable and fueled by resentment, she assaulted the former emperor in return. From this second act, the Imperial Brother was born, a child conceived because of revenge. This theory suggests that Anshi could not bring herself to raise the Imperial Brother. He was a living reminder of everything she went through. It is believed that she may have even attempted to kill him multiple times, unable to accept the idea of nurturing a child born from such pain. On the day of the Imperial Brother's birth, the event was so complicated that most of the inner court's medical staff was required. The two infants, Anshi's child and Ado's child, were in the public eye. Anshi was seen as the mother of the now Imperial Brother, while in reality he is the biological son of the current emperor and Ado, making him a true prince by blood for the current generation. And this leads us into the next major theory, that Jinshi will ultimately become the next emperor. The idea is that it's not just a possibility, it's his rightful position. Jinshi is in fact the true first in line for the throne, and in order to restore order and fix the empire's deep-rooted problems, he will eventually ascend to the position of emperor. But wait, because there's a key contradiction we need to address. Jinshi himself has never shown much interest in becoming emperor. If anything, he seems to deliberately distance himself from politics and power. So for him to change course so drastically, there must be a powerful reason. And that reason might be Mao. But before we jump to that conclusion, let's take a step back and see the other theories first. Our next theory suggests that Shisui's real identity is actually Loulan, the daughter of Shisui and Shinmei. Remember, Shinmei is a consort for the former emperor, but as a gift for Shisui's accomplishments, Empress Regnant gifted her to Shisui, and from this union, Loulan was born. The theory suggests that Loulan and Shisui are actually the same person, because let's be honest, they do resemble one another a lot. Now we will move, and the next theory talks about Mao Mao's hidden lineage, and it comes with two possible branches. The first version suggests that the madam is actually Mao Mao's biological grandmother. This could explain why she went out of her way to take care of Fengshen. The main clue comes from a painting we saw of the madam in her youth, painting that strikingly resembled Fengshen. If this resemblance is more than coincidence, then the madam would be Fengshen's mother, and therefore Mao Mao's grandma. And the second version, which is absolutely wild, proposes that the madam is actually the best friend of Empress Regnant. Both women lived in the same era, and the theory suggests that they shared close bond. So close that when Empress Regnant got pregnant with a daughter named Fengshen, she entrusted her newborn daughter to her closest friend, the man. And the reason for that is because Empress Regnant was not backed by a powerful clan, and giving birth to a daughter within the court could have endangered the child. If the Empress truly did orchestrate the deaths of all potential heirs to protect her son's claim, then having an unacknowledged daughter outside the court would make sense. A way to keep her safe from the deadly politics of succession. According to this theory, Fengshen is the secret daughter of Empress Regnant, which would make her the sister of the former emperor, and that would mean Mao Mao is the niece of the former emperor, and because Jinshi is the great-grandson of Empress Regnant, there would be a blood connection between Jinshi and Mao. Now we arrive at the mother of all theories, one that suggests Mao Mao's kidnapping was no coincidence. First, let's agree on this. The Apothecary Diaries is written with deliberate mastery. Every event happens for a reason. Given that, we must assume Mao Mao's kidnapping, despite its lack of details, was intentional. This theory proposes that someone was preparing Mao Mao for a greater plot, assassinating key figures in the court. To do this, she had to be entangled in inner court politics and skilled in medicine and poison, since knowledge of one implies the other. Could that someone be Loulan, considering how he was dismissed from his duties without fault? Could he harbor some resentment? Or perhaps he had another motive for teaching Mao Mao medicine and poison. If you think about it, he repeatedly warned her to watch for potential kidnappers, foreshadowing if you ask me, and when she was kidnapped, Loulan showed no outrage, almost as if he expected it, as if he'd been raising an assassin all along. But for this theory to hold, we need Loulan's incentive. His dismissal might not be enough. There could be another reason we don't know yet. If not Loulan, then who? Enter Lacan, Mao Mao's father, a man as suspicious as the word itself. Mastermind of his caliber could easily manipulate Mao Mao into assassinating, say, the emperor maybe. And there are some theories that says that Empress Regnant orchestrated everything. If the previous theory holds, then Mao Mao is her granddaughter, meaning the Empress may have manipulated events to force Mao Mao into the inner court. Without an Empress Regnant left, the task would fall to the madam to complete the mission. So the one who orchestrated the kidnapping is actually the madam. Now I know what you're thinking. We're giving Empress Regnant way too much credit here, elevating her to Eisen from Bleach levels of scheme. But consider this. Remember the foreshadowing when Mao Mao insisted that if she were to be executed, it should be by poison. There must be a reason for that. Perhaps she's framed for assassinating someone in the inner court, whether by blackmail, coercion, or simply being a scapegoat. We don't know the full picture yet, but this would justify her execution. And here's the final twist. The last theory suggests that on the day of Mao Mao's execution, Jinshi would drink the poison with her dying together. If you made it this far, thank you. These videos take a lot of research, time and effort, and your support means the. So if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment with your favorite theory or one I missed. Also, if you found this interesting, I've already covered the full character hierarchy, the Imperial court structure, explaining the world, history of the entire world, and the birth origins of the characters in separate videos. So if you want a clearer picture of how everything connects behind the scenes, I highly recommend checking those out next.